The parts of our Bernina 330 sewing machine at school. All sewing machines have similar parts. If it is not a computerized one, it might not have some of the computerized portions, but most sewing machines will have these parts.
Alright, your assignment has two parts. This front side that shows the picture of the sewing machine, and then the back side which has a chart. The chart has the definition of each part of the sewing machine, and you're going to need to write the name of the part of the machine that actually does that task. On the front, just to help you find where each part is, you're going to have to write the name of the part in the box as we go around. We are going to start at the top left one underneath your name.
Our first sewing machine part is here on the top near the back of your machine. It is this little metal hook. It's called the thread guide. It literally guides the thread through the machine. There are several thread guides, but this one's the first place you take the thread when you are threading the machine and is probably the most important of those thread guides. You have to make sure the thread actually comes up underneath this hook.
On the front of your paper in that top left box, you should have written the word thread guide. And then looking at the definitions on the back of the paper, figure out which number is the one for thread guide. Hint, number 9 says guides the thread through the machine. Make sure you write thread guide on the correct line there as well.
Display screen. Right here in the center of your machine is an electronic screen that displays and shows the current settings and other stitch information. For example, this column here from 0 to 5 is your stitch length. That's how far the needle jumps every time it stitches. This from 0 to 5 here says how wide from side to side is the needle going to jump from side to side and sew zigzag. This bar with the light in the middle shows you your needle position. It says, hey, the needle's right now in center, or I can move it to the right or to the left, so it's not sewing right in center. This is a number 1, which says we are using stitch number 1 on the sewing machine. If you look over here in my example, it says number 2. Number 2 is a zigzag, and number 1 is a straight stitch. Right here it tells you what kind of presser foot you need. Different stitches need different feet. This is saying, hey, stitch number 1 needs a normal, basic number 1 presser foot, the normal universal one. This right here tells, our machines are smart, it tells you whether the needle is going to stop always in the air whenever you stop sewing, or you can change the arrow so it points down. It will tell you that it always points down when you're stitching. Like if you lift up the press foot, stop sewing, the needle would be down in the fabric. And in the course of around here, different icons will pop up telling you what is going on and other stitch information. Next part of the machine is our spool pin. Up to the top right, this actually swivels down and up. If it's up, we can put a spool thread on it and it will hold it to keep it steady while you sew. And then it must be lowered, swiveled down before you put away the sewing machine, because the sewing machine is on a shelf drawer. It slides under the table. If this is sticking up, it will pop off when it gets hit. Please note we do have a horizontal spool pin on our machines. Your home sewing machine might have one of these. If you use these, that's fine. Just make sure you put the cap on the end so the spool doesn't fly off. We use these ones at school so that gravity keeps the spool on the spool pin. Now over here on the right of your sewing machine, there is this white circle. Please note these arrows are going the wrong direction. Oh my goodness. You will always spin your hand wheel, this circle, towards you. Always towards you. Not the direction of these arrows. Because the machine needle will go up and down when you spin this. If you spin it the wrong way, the needle will actually miss the bobbin thread and will not form a stitch. And then that thread has nowhere to go but tie knots in your machine. You must spin your hand wheel towards you so the needle will go down and catch the bobbin thread where it's supposed to, and prevent thread issues. Stitch selector. This number pad set of buttons here selects different stitches on your machine. For example, if we click number 1, we get a straight stitch. If we click number 2, our display screen changes to a 2, and we have a zigzag, a pre-selected width and length for our zigzag, pretty standard zigzag. Number 4 is called serpentine, where instead of just jumping from side to side, it will stitch 1, 2, 3, turn 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, back and forth across there. This one is a stretch stitch for sewing with knits. This one is your buttonhole, etc. and so forth. All machines should come with information explaining what each of these are and how to use them. Please note our school machines are programmed with 40 different stitches. If you want to do a 2-digit number, you click the number sign or the pound sign. So I'd click it and then I'd go 1, 2, and then 12 would show up on my display screen and I'd be able to do stitch 12. Clear should send you back to 1 or at least reset the settings for your current stitch. The power switch is here on the side of your machine. It doesn't show up in this picture, but if you look at the side, there it is, right above the power cord. Allows you to turn the machine on or off. Please note in our class, you do not need to worry about this, and please don't mess with this. This is where your foot pedal will plug in, and this is called your feed dog drop. I'll explain that more when we get to the feed dogs. And here's your spool pin when it's swiveled down. Okay, your foot pedal tells the machine to sew, and you control it with your foot. So this wedge goes on the floor and acts like the gas pedal of a car, which means as you push harder with your foot, it will go faster. Only sew as fast as you can control the machine. Slower without mistakes is better than fast with lots of mistakes. Okay, the bobbin. These little metal circles have thread wound around the inside here. These ones are empty. And these go into the bottom of your sewing machine. Your machine needs thread on top and on bottom to complete a stitch. Bobbin case. The bobbin case holds the bobbin in the machine. It actually will lock the bobbin in the machine and controls the bottom tension. How hard it is for the machine to pull that bottom thread up through the machine as well. Please note, this right here, at least on the school machines, is a lever that if you pull up on it, allows you to unlock the bobbin case from the machine and pull it out again. Is our backstitch button. It's a U-turn shape button. Your machine is set to pull fabric from in front to the back automatically. That's just the way it pulls fabric through. If you push this button while you are holding it, the machine will go the other way and instead bring fabric from the back to the front. We use this at the beginning and end of our row stitching to sew a knot. If you sew in the same exact spot 2 or 3 stitches, it basically ends up as a knot. So we backstitch at the beginning and the end to secure our stitches. The needle, of course, is that sharp piece of metal with a hole down here for the thread to go through. It pierces the fabric and carries the top thread through to create a stitch. Pierces fabric, goes down, hooks on the bottom thread, and then comes back up to create a full stitch. The presser foot itself. The presser foot is this kind of chicken foot looking thing. Its job is literally to come down. You put your fabric in this gap, you put it down, and it presses firmly down on the fabric to help the feed dogs be able to pull the fabric through evenly. If the fabric is floating in here and your feed dogs try to pull the fabric through, your fabric's just going to bounce up and down through here. If the presser foot comes down, it holds it nice and steady so the feed dogs can get a good grip and pull it through evenly. On the side of your machine here is a little shell shape. If you bring your thread up through here and pull down, it will cut it kind of like a pencil sharpener would cut thread. There's a little blade in there. Please note the distance from the thread cutter to the needle is actually the optimum amount of thread tail you should have at the end of every row stitching to make sure the thread doesn't get sucked back up through the needle when you sew. On the back of your machine, you got this lovely arrow that says, look at the back, because it's not on this picture, is a lever. This metal lever is your presser foot lever or lifter. If you pull it up, the presser foot comes up. If you push it down, the presser foot goes down. Please note, this must go down to sew. When this goes down, your tension disc clamps together on the thread. Your press foot is down holding the fabric steady so that when you sew, you will be able to sew accurately and well. Take up lever. This is probably one of the most important parts of the sewing machine right here. Kind of hiding behind this metal beak is this metal lever, and there's a hole in the center of it. Your thread must be through that hole when you thread the machine, because this lever, when it's up, it grabs the thread and pulls it down, and it goes down with the needle. And it comes up to grab more thread from the spool and pull it down so that the needle can put it through the fabric and catch the bobbin thread. So this moves up and down. It must be right here at the top whenever you start, and your thread needs to come through that hole. Those are the basic parts of the sewing machine. Different machines have different parts. There are things I didn't explain to you guys, but that's because you do not need to use them for my class. Take a higher level sewing class and you will learn more details.
Alright, let's double check your paper. On the back side, you should have listed the name of the part that actually does the definition that is written there. Number 1 is your presser foot. Number 2 is the needle. Number 3 is the thread cutter. Number 4 is the backstitch button. Number 5 is your presser foot lifter or lever. Number 6 is the take-up lever. Number 7 is the bobbin. Number 8 is the bobbin case. Number 9 is the thread guide. Number 10 is your stitch selector. Number 11 is the display screen. Number 12 is the power switch. 13 is the foot pedal. Number 14 is your hand wheel. And number 15 is the spool pin. Also, to double check, looking at the front of your paper where it shows the picture of the sewing machine, here is where all of the names of the parts should be. Take a minute, make sure you have the right ones in the right spot.